figure out how.
Hello, I'm so excited to have my good friend um, Amanda Woodward here. We're having coffee with the Kingpins. Of course, I think it's past coffee time. Well, I'm having my green drink.
Tea. My tea is
So lovely, beautiful. You look fabulous. So, can you tell us a little bit about, your story, the background, how you got into what you're doing, your passions, and so on?
sure. I'll try to keep it succinct.
Okay.
Um, First of all, I wasn't looking for this path at all. It kind of found me. You could even say it hit me right in the face. Um, Growing up, like as a really small child, I could see other, you could say other dimensions, other layers of reality. I didn't know that's what I was doing then. I thought it was all my imagination. And I also dealt with a lot of what you could only describe, I guess, as astral attacks, especially at night when I was sleeping. Pretty
Hmm.
severe starting at a young age. I remember probably as young as like 7 or 8 years old, maybe even before that, having horrific night terrors. And it kind of went beyond a normal nightmare where I would be awake. I'd wake up in the middle of the night or be in that liminal state, and I would see with my, psychic eyes, spirit eyes, however you want to say that, in the room, things that were torturing me. But then I also saw positive things. I just thought I was making it all up in my mind. So fast forward to 2012, and I think I had shut a lot of that down, especially through puberty. After about the age of 11, I don't remember having so many. The night terrors, the astral attacks at night continued all through my teenage years, I remember being in college and it happening to me, watching things crawl on my ceiling at night. That part never went away, but my other world connections, I think I just blocked them out for a really long time. And so fast forward to 2012, and I was working as a model and an actress, and I was doing triathlons and mountain biking and martial arts, and just really up in all of that. And then I had an accident on a bike, um, above
Wow.
the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. I crashed going pretty fast. They say probably about 35 miles an hour on my bicycle, flying down a hill, on the Marin Headlands, it's called. And I crashed with my face into a guardrail.
Oh my God.
I actually I hit my ribs first, and it threw my head around to the back side of the guardrail, which is sharp. There's edges on it, and I cut through my face, through my lip, my nose, my eye, and cut this part of my face away and smashed all of these bones. And that was a complete left turn. I mean, no more modeling and acting for one, but also it reopened my ability to see almost instantly. From the moment of the crash till I was taken in an ambulance to have facial reconstruction surgery, um, at Marin General Hospital. And I wouldn't say in the ambulance, but by the time I got to the hospital, I was starting to see. Like as I was being wheeled into surgery, I could see both of my grandfathers who are both dead, and they were at that time. I could
Right.
see them on either side of my hospital bed, comforting me. So that's kind of how that part happened. So that was for people who keep track of number things, and I don't put a ton of weight on it. However, it was on 11/11/2012 was when
Wow.
the accident happened. And then I started having more of those kinds of experiences, but I was denying it more. Some people would call them spiritual, you could call them astral, seeing things, having those having those visions come back. but I was stuffing it down and denying it and just kind of, I was just in survival mode. There was a lot of other pretty disastrous things in my life happening after the accident, just kind of in succession.
My God.
And I was just hanging on for dear life.
So you
Um,
were really pushed into all this, really. It was
oh,
like an awakening. Yeah.
yeah, fast. I mean, it was like within a couple months after my accident, I had a dear uncle who was like a second father to me take his own life. And then for the next 2 years after that, I was caring for my mother as she went through cancer treatments and then died. I was like nursing her through the death process. Lost other family members in that time. And it was just one thing after another. So it took until about 2015. So a year after my mom died, I was at a pretty low point, and I just kept dreaming about horses. And particularly, this is going to sound funny, but the smell of horses. Like horses have a very unique smell. And I
Hmm.
just wanted to smell that horse smell, I guess. And that led me into hanging out with horses, which very quickly led me into studying with some horse healing teachers, Tom and Yolanda Mays. And then that was kind of the spark that made me realize all the visions and things that I had been having were not my imagination and were not something bad, that was something that I could tap into to actually communicate and work with the horses. So
Right.
that was the first more intentional step into this kind of work.
Wow. Yeah. It just seems whenever you're not on your path, the universe really pushes you. If you're like refusing to wake up, then something terrible
Yeah.
has to happen to push you to the edge to awaken. Yeah, that's really interesting. So you started with horses because I have to share that the reason I met you was a friend of mine who got a clearing from you. And I'm very particular about, trusting my intuition as far as massage therapists, energy workers, even whatever, therapists and so on. And so I had asked her, I said, if you don't mind, can you send me over your clearing recording so I can listen and see if it resonates? And I heard it and it was amazing. And I truly resonated with you. And I think that we both confirmed that we both had a very powerful recollection that we knew each other from another place. So I did a couple of clearings with you, which were profound. And I want to share this with everyone because the work that you do is remote. So, I had requested a clearing. I had sent you a picture as you had requested and, my date of birth and name, and that was it. So you'd never told me, when it was going to exactly happen. And I was going through, I'm not a person that gets depressed or down usually, but it was a period that, anyway, with lots of things that had happened, I was kind of feeling, depressed. And so one morning I got up and I was like, my God, I feel so euphoric and positive and energetic. And then, while I was drinking my coffee, I looked at my emails, and there was a recording saying, hey, here is your clearing. And I listened to it, and then I realized why I felt what I felt, which was amazing. And that kind of led me to do a couple of more clearings. And then I was like, I think you offered, a course or something, or did I ask you about it? Anyway, and I started, taking your classes, and now I do energy clearings. So
Here we are.
amazing. Yeah, here we are.
Yeah, thank you for
So
telling me about that. I'm always curious about what it's like to receive the clearings on the other end. So I love hearing about it.
yeah, I mean, it was a profound experience for me because I knew how I felt, for the last 2 weeks. And then getting up that morning and feeling as though, I had done a 180-degree turn was amazing. I have Miss Zelly here who is trying to get on my lap.
Oh,
She doesn't like me
dog or
talking to me.
cat?
My dog, my dog.
Uh-huh.
Um, but what were we saying? Yeah. So for me, and especially after I heard, what you cleared, which was actually very apropos because that was one of the reasons that I was, upset. So it just completely jived um, with what was going on. So, so you got into horses, but explain more how you got to do, what were the steps to get you to start doing clearings and then, to offer courses, because that takes some time.
Yeah, I mean it was never the plan for sure. When I had felt so, when you get to a low point and nothing gives you that now what I will call that source feeling, but that feeling of life, spark within you. I had been at that point since the death of my mother and probably before that. And the only thing that gave me that spark was working with the horses. So when that came into my life, I thought, oh, I found my purpose. And these teachers are amazing. Tom and Yolanda Mays, they combine all these different modalities like kinesiology, myofascial release, osteopathy, craniosacral therapy,
Wow.
just basic physiology and biology of the horses. They work with high level equine veterinarians and horse trainers. And here I was obsessed with horses since childhood, but I'm not a horse person. But my class included the woman who was the she was the lead equine veterinarian for the Brazil Olympics that had passed like a year. That's the level of horse people I was working with. I didn't even know how to put a halter on them, but I
Right.
found my purpose. But what would happen is that my teacher, Tom, who also has been trained in various, I guess, for lack of a better word, you could call them shamanic practices. When he would come to work with me, he would say, no, 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 you're not doing osteopathic release on a nerve. You're going to do a merge and you're going to find the entity that is in the liver.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? So I was like, what? I had never even heard of entity. I didn't think, but for some reason, he helped me hone in on that was more of my specialty. The veterinarians that know every muscle fiber, they were working on the organs and all of that. And I learned how to do that, but he would always have me find the energetic component
Right.
behind it. So at that point, I still thought I was working with animals and horses in particular. What I noticed is that we were taught how to energetically merge with the horses. Everyone, even the highest level veterinarian, had to learn how to energetically merge.
Hmm.
So you could say it in another way of like the horse is already tapped into the greater merged consciousness, what we could call the source field. We had to learn how to go there with them. It's a better diagnostic tool, really. So I would, with specific horses, I would do the merging with them and I would get so much information. It was clear communication. They would show me what was wrong with them. They would show me traumatic things that had happened in their lives, but it wasn't consistent. I couldn't do it all the time, and I felt like I kept hitting a wall. So I wanted to learn animal communication. So I found a woman, actually just found a book at my local bookstore here that was by this woman, Marta Williams. And it told her whole story, but in the back, there was a little practice exercise where you could remotely connect with one of her animals and test yourself. So you would take the test, and at the very back of the book would have the answer so you could check your accuracy. And I was like, I think I got 100% or something like that.
Wow. Okay.
Thought, I want to learn from this woman. So I went and did a week long thing with her, but it was great. I speak, very highly of her work and as a teacher, but I realized very quickly, oh, I can do this. I just didn't know the steps. And it was not just animals. It's like once that channel was open, once I knew how to connect with things on that level, I could talk to anything.
Hmm.
Could talk to rivers, to trees, to human beings that had passed over that were dead. So then I thought, oh, well, now am I supposed to be a medium? Because I was having dead people then were talking to me when I was just going about my business.
Wow, that could be.
Yeah, so it was a lot. It was like a big opening and it was a lot of noise. And then I kept thinking, so at first I thought, oh, I'm supposed to be a horse healer. Oh, I'm supposed to be an animal communicator. Oh, I'm supposed to be a medium because every new thing that I tried would open up a new skill and I would think, oh, this is my purpose, you know? So it was this unfolding. But what ended up happening from 2015 till about 2018, 2019 is that all of this kept happening. All I'd have to do is be exposed to one new thing, and then all of a sudden, boom, like I could do it, and I didn't know what to do. I was still kind of trying to just survive. But what happened is I knew pretty quickly that I was not just going to work with animals. And I didn't even really want to work with people. That seemed way too complicated, but I could just feel like, no, I'm not going to this. It's like you were saying earlier, if you fight where you're being pulled down that path, that's far more painful than to just go, okay, that sounds scary, but this is where we're going.
Mhm.
So
Trust, trust,
yeah,
trust.
exactly. So what I started out doing just for friends and by word of mouth and at first in person was taking everything that I had learned from the horse healing techniques, combining that with, the animal communication, the quantum communication skills and mediumship. And I would give people what I called tracking sessions where maybe some ancestral things would come through because that's something I had always been able to see since I was a little kid or like ancestral lives or what people call past lives. Um, but what happened pretty quickly, the closer it got towards 2020 and then the tipping point of 2021 is people were dealing with astral infringements or attacks themselves and I would have to help them in the moment. And sometimes I wouldn't even know how, but if I stayed in that state that now, in our work, we call like being in your source aligned state. If I would stay in that state, the answer of how to help them, how to get rid of that entity or that energy or whatever, it would come to me in the moment.
Mhm.
And then I started getting more requests for that. People were coming to me who had been attending so many ayahuasca ceremonies and they had all this dark stuff stuck on them because a lot of the facilitators, even with the best intentions and a lot of training, aren't really qualified to keep people astrally safe. And so a lot of people that had been experimenting with the wave, the trend of psychedelics and healing would find me and say, well, it was going great for a while, but now I can't sleep. I'm anxious. There's this dark thing looming over me, and I would have to, get rid of it, basically. So that's how it funneled without me directing it that way down to just clearing.
Yeah, it's very interesting because still there's so many people that feel actually someone approached me to interview her and she's written a book about her experience with ayahuasca. I never resonated with it and I had a few times where people have said, "Hey, we're going to do this," or "This person is coming from Peru." And I was like, "Not my thing."
Yeah. I think it's good to follow that instinct that you have. And then some people are very strongly drawn towards it. I
Mm.
will say that um, I do believe that that medicine has helped some people in some cases. But the problem is with our kind of more westernized way of thinking, we think even people could do this with clearing. Just someone might hear your story and go, wow, Firoze had this amazing experience. I need a clearing. I need, and it might not be the solution for you.
Right.
And for a lot of people, and particularly it depends on where the health of your nervous system, the training of the practitioners, and
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. I think we have a mutual friend, and I don't know if she ever shared with you what happened. I mean, that was like intense. And so, yeah, the shaman who or whoever is leading it has to be um, really on the money. But the other part of it is, I think anytime one becomes vulnerable, whether it's through drinking or smoking grass or whatever. You open your fields without knowing it. And since you're in a different state, things come and, light attracts dark. So, they will take any chance they get to swarm in. So that's the danger. Yeah.
Absolutely. Any kind of opening without some basic understanding of what is it that you're dealing with and some basic guardianship practices, which are often culturally lost. All of us have ancestors that have practiced ways of interacting with the other layers of reality, safety things. Some of those things aren't even relevant anymore because what's happening right now is different.
Right.
What I mean, practices of like, burning certain medicines, saging, the Lord's Prayer, that whatever those protective practices are, they don't apply to these AI fake things that we find all the time. They
Right.
don't work. They work on some things, they work on the more ancient things. And that was kind of the tipping point of 2021, where I had been taught other protective mechanisms. I knew specific medicine songs that could drive dark things away. But after 2021, a lot of those, I will call them now like old paradigm practices. They are good to be aware of. Some of them still work in some cases. And now we are dealing with things that there's no precedence for. You have to be able to tune into source yourself to adapt in that moment to what is present.
Right.
And no amount of burning sage or saying the Lord's Prayer or carrying a protective talisman is actually going to help you in the long run with some of these things. It has to come from pure source that you tap into through your own body.
Yeah. And I feel, and I'm sure you'll agree with me that, as days go by, we're getting more and more aligned with source energy because the earth is going through its cleansing and we've got more light. So we have more ability to directly connect to source. So that's
Exactly.
pretty amazing. Yeah.
100%. I think that's like, I think a lot of the ancient knowledge and practices are good foundational understandings that can help us, with what's going on right now. But a lot of it is no longer relevant. And I know that can be triggering for some people to hear, and you don't have to believe what I say, but that's how I just had somebody reach out to me and ask, well, who were your teachers? How did you learn how to clear? And I'm like, teachers? I learned by things attacking me in the middle of the night, feeling like I was going to have a heart attack, feeling like I was being pulled into mental torment. And I had to learn how to use my own body and field to drive those things away
Mhm.
because all the other things weren't working. Asking for protection from guardian spirits or setting salt around my bed or doing certain prayers, like all of the things that I had used stopped working. It had to come from me. It had to come from my source center, my heart center. Um, so sometimes people don't like to hear that, but that's the reality of where we're at right now, and it's only accelerating. But it's a good thing in that, like you just said, all of those other things were relevant during the darkest parts, the densest parts of what my higher intelligence calls like corporeal existence, the material world. um, those practices and having shamans and having gurus and teachers and priests and priestesses and people who were like bridges to being able to access more source with great effort. That was all necessary. Bless those people. I feel so grateful for all of our, forebears that were practice that brought
Right.
those practices that carried humanity through. But now it's all of us that have to do it. So
Yeah, very important. I mean, definitely it's a time to shift. And I think every human being that is alive at the present moment on Earth, they're here for a special reason. We all have certain missions, so to speak.
yeah.
And so it's, again, be open. The thing is that I don't think human beings in general realize, the royalty that we are as far as our capabilities, and the gifts that we were given by Source that for so many eons was all kind of pushed down. Like you were mentioning AIs. I was listening to Kim Gogan the other night, actually yesterday, and she was talking about how Metatron was actually an AI that was created, and how many people, meditate with Metron and Metatron Cube and all that, and that was part of keeping the capabilities of humans down, but also feed off the energy to feed the dark. We've always been used as batteries because
Mhm.
human beings, because those entities didn't have the ability to create. We are co-creators with Source. So they were using us as batteries. So now, as we're going through the shift, it's everyone's responsibility to tap into their source center and see what messages come through. And, as time goes, we're going to be able to telepathically speak. We're going to be able to just do so many things, heal ourselves, so many things, but step by step. And everyone has a different step depending on the work that they've done on themselves. So the reason I wanted to talk to you, because I care for you dearly, um, and you've taught me, how to kind of get in touch with my gifts. And also, I feel that this is an amazing time where so many people can benefit with, what you're offering. So if you can, tell us how people can contact you. You have a website, and then maybe explain a little bit about how you go about, doing that, or when someone contacts you.
Well, thank you for that. I also care deeply. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you over these past, how is it? Has it been almost 2 years?
No, more than that.
More than 2 years? Yeah. I mean, the
Four
time,
years,
4?
close to 4 years. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Anyway, I appreciate that. I do have a website. It's guardianones.com. I will say, and I've been saying this for over a year, and this is the year I'm going to do something about it. The website is pretty outdated, um, but it is still a way to sign up for the newsletter, which I also haven't posted in a long time because things are shifting. Things are shifting with our work. But you can go to the website, you can fill out a contact form, or you can just email me directly at trackermedicine22@gmail. Those are the best ways to get in touch with me. We are still offering clearings, although we used to do more single clearings, and what we're really shifting focus, especially because we have more people like yourself we can refer clients out to. Um, what we really prefer is working with people in a series of clearings rather than just a one-off. We find that it actually, usually if you get a three clearing series, it ends up being about 3 months that we're working together, the whole container of that. And we just find that to be a lot more effective in what we want to put our energy towards since it's. But also things are changing. I started to feel over the summer that the way that I work, and then Tibor, who you also know, my assistant, and I want to give a shout out to him.
Yes. Maybe
He's
we'll.
not really my assistant. He's my right hand dude, because that's the other thing is I was doing clearings for alone for a while, and it was exhausting to keep track of the list of infringements that we check for and to do all the clearing myself. And so I kind of put it out there into the universe, like, who is my person that can help me with this? And Tibor Call came along. He's amazing. But I started telling him over the summer, I'm like, something's shifting. It's and it's not that clearing is no longer valid. It's that I feel like I'm moving out of that phase, which is great because now we have 10 other people, you being one, who know how to clear using these methods. because there's all kinds of guardianship practices from around the world. These are the ones that came through my experience, and now there's a lot of you doing it. So, for the time being, we're still offering clearings, but I can feel things shifting, and I can feel that all of the other things that I was exposed to early on, starting to work with the horses, telepathy and quantum communication, and all the healing work, it's coming back stronger through me now.
Hmm.
Whereas I've been just in warrior mode, clearing mode. I mean, you've worked with me for long enough to know that I just like got everything down to this system of if it's source aligned or not. And it was like, choo, 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 not even allowing for any nuance because we were kind of in an emergency state there for a couple of years as you know, I think we were always going to land where we are now, which is more aligned with source as humanity, as a planet, as every living thing on the planet. But it felt like a battle for a few years.
It
And
was
now I'm
because they knew they were losing, and it was like we'll do whatever we can. It doesn't matter how many we'll take with us. Yeah.
exactly.
So I
So I
mean, it really
feel like
got.
for me, I'm outgrowing the battle mode. That doesn't mean other people won't be going into battle mode now, but I'm like, okay, I'm trying to retire. What else can we do? So yeah, I encourage
I
people to reach.
kind of, yeah, sorry to interrupt, but I kind of totally get what you're saying because it is getting to a point where each individual has to use their own resources to do that.
Yes, 100%. And this is something that it's a theme that we've been talking about with our advanced training that you've been a part of, and we're going to continue. We have one more call where we're going to talk about it. Before, very recently, Earth was kind of you could say it was at the midway point between anti-source and pure source, right? Creation and consumption energy. We've now tipped over into more creation energy, but our bodies have to catch up. Our fields have to catch up. We're doing it as a whole being, Earth as like a whole living organism. We are doing it, but there is some individual leveling. So what's happening is now that there is more pure source, pure creation energy available to us in our bodies on Earth, if you are still dealing with a ton of infringements, it's not because Earth is still so riddled with them so much. Yeah, there are still some and in our bodies, but it's you are a little bit staying stuck in. I mean, it sounds very new agey, but I think people will understand when I say it this way. You yourself are dwelling in a little bit lower frequency. That there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing, it's like being in kindergarten versus being in high school. It's not a bad thing. It's just you have the opportunity now to go quickly from kindergarten to high school if you choose to help take certain steps. And you're not going to prevent your own evolution from happening, but you can definitely slow it down by really digging into your coping mechanisms, really burying your head in the sand, really falling into each new thing that calls for our own outrage through the news, through social media, whatever it is. It's a political thing, a natural disaster, a global crisis, a war. If you're jumping on all of those external things and ignoring what's going on internally, you will slow your progress and you will have to keep in battle mode for even longer.
Yeah, I mean, just to share a little bit, I mean, a source took back anti-source, neutral source. It's all gone back to source. But the thing is that those human beings that were basically the soldiers of the dark side, they're still trying. So, how are they trying? Through media, through news, through things that they can create. And you're absolutely right. If you focus on those things, you're getting that dark energy. And the other thing is like, we all have to be honest with ourselves. Sometimes, we get attention by, I was telling one of my clients, stop using the word stress. I'm stressed. This was stress. I said, stop using it. That word by itself has energy, you know, and you keep on taking yourself back to that. So let's move it into something positive. So that's what I feel like everyone, it's getting to the point that each individual has their own free will and has to take responsibility and do the work themselves. No one else is going to save you. You got to do the work. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's been a profound journey for me. Uh, anyway, not to go too much into, my background, but I was sort of a little like you, as a child, I used to hear voices and I used to see these beings. I don't remember so many dark, but I used to see these beings. They used to say, "Hey, hey, come home, come home." And I was like, I promise I'm going to come home, but I have things to do right now. I promise I'll come home. But as you say, and I kind of felt I didn't belong for a very, very long time. And that was what pushed me to start doing the work. Like I started meditating. I've done a lot of different things. And I always say I feel actually more childlike as I grow up because there are less, things pushing me down. There are less weight. So yeah, and I appreciate you tremendously and how the work that you've done, what you've taught us, and hopefully we can be of service in some way. And I was very passionate about having you come on and discuss what you do. And would love to hear more when you find out what you're going to do in the future. That would be great. So I'm going to, of course, share your website and how people contact you. But if you can mention it again, and maybe, I don't know, maybe that's too difficult to ask. I was going to say if you can show your website to us, but you don't need to do that. Just share the information again. And if you have any last golden nuggets to share with us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to talk with you. And yeah, again, my website is in dire need of updating, but you can still kind of get an idea of some things there. It's guardianones.com. And you can also
Excellent.
email me directly. If you fill out a contact form on the website, you'll get added to the newsletter. I don't bombard. In fact, I'm the opposite of bombarding you with newsletters. I haven't posted one since May. I'm very overdue, but I do have one brewing. Or you can email me directly at trackermedicine22@gmail.com. And yeah, I'll be updating through that as the work evolves because it inevitably will. And any last nuggets? I would say that there's this really interesting convergence of what we find by doing quote unquote spirit work, what we're shown behind the scenes, and where science is starting to catch up. And the convergence is in the human heart and what we call the source center. There's some really interesting people talking about the quantum physics of what occurs in the heart and how basically the spark of life, like an ATP and spark of energy, goes from, we could say, the source field, but actually into human form. So it's interesting that we find in our work the center of everything is the source center, the heart center.
Hmm.
And yet now there's more and more evidence that the heart is doing far more than just moving blood around your body. It's converting from the etheric into the physical life force energy. So I would say practices that center you in your heart, they're not woo woo. They're not silly. They're actually imperative for getting through this transition period with as much ease as possible. Just even putting your attention on your heart center, and you'll hear like Heart Math Institute talks about that. A lot of people are talking about it. It's very trendy right now, but there's truth in it of
Yeah.
putting, it doesn't mean people equate heart with emotions. We're talking heart with life force, with creation energy
Hmm.
on a quantum level, on a biological level. It's not out there woo woo, it's truth. So if I could leave one nugget, it would be that. If you're feeling stressed, put your hand in the center of your chest and just breathe there for a second. Just put your focus down from your mind there because there's a brain there too. And this one gets easily confused. This one knows how to keep calm and just keep steady, and it increases your intuition. So that would be my last nugget.
I would love you to share what you shared a while ago because that was pretty amazing for me. How you breathe, because there's a way to breathe outwardly and then inwardly, or there is a way to breathe this way. So for me, it was very profound because when I go into my source sense. And as you know, I've shared with you, I've done other work where we have, our source sense. But
Yeah.
um, when you close your eyes and you breathe in and imagine that you are pushing it out sideways and then bring it in is incredible because I feel like little particles of light in every cell of my body. It's
Mm-hmm.
pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the heart-centered breath and how you can
Yes.
do it in a couple different ways. And
Yeah.
by the way, like there's a lot of talk about coherence, heart-brain coherence, heart coherence. And if you measure heart rate variability, there's a multitude of breathing techniques that can get you into a high state of coherence. However, not all forms of breathing are focusing you on your source center, your heart center, where there are actual neurons. There's another brain there. So this is why I love box breathing is amazing. And there's all these different techniques, but the heart-centered breathing is switching your intelligence to a different center of your body.
Yeah.
The couple of different ways from if you're putting your attention on your source center and just imagining that your breath is coming in and out of there, you can do it just front, forward, back, right? You know, your breath is coming in and out of the center of your chest. But another way to do it is like this. So from the center of your chest, it's almost how we pulse in our
Hmm.
green work that we do. We do energetic pulses. It's doing it in a sphere, I guess you would say, from your source center out and down. And for some reason, I do it differently. When I'm exhaling, the energy expands, and when I'm inhaling, it centers in my heart.
Hmm.
But you can play around with either of those and whatever feels better for you. I switch off between the two
Right.
of just putting my focus here and letting it go in and out or completely in and out like a. Do you think this visual makes sense? What I'm doing with
It
my hand?
does. It does. Yeah. I was
Okay.
going this way, but yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
does.
yeah,
It does.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I do Kundalini yoga and you have a lot of different breathings, but also there is one that you focus on your heart center,
Yeah.
your heart chakra, it's called, and you breathe and very powerful, very powerful. I was actually talking to someone that I interviewed last week that is one of my Kundalini teachers, but she also teaches face yoga. And we were sharing how we both got into doing Kundalini yoga, which was very interesting. But there is so much to speak about,
Oh
but
my.
I know. But maybe we can do part two at some point.
Yeah, I
And
would.
it was a pleasure. Thank you so much, Amanda Woodward. And we'll see you soon. Hope I'm going to see you soon.
Thank you.
And absolutely looking forward. And thanks again so much. Don't go anywhere yet.